Good afternoon. My name is Tony Cladusbid. I have heritage that ties me to this land right here, this actual piece of land that we're sitting on here today. The spot right here was where one of 8 longhouses were in Penn Cove. And this was one of the main ones here. It was 100 feet wide and 1,000 feet long. And you know, when you think about that lifestyle that we led, the things that we accomplished on a day-to-day basis without technology, the care, the preservation, knowledge, the land, the people that come with it. I was born and raised on the water. I was taught a lot of things the old school way on how to navigate in the water. And I suppose learning how to swim is probably the first thing that you learn how to do. And a lot of people have heard stories of their parents taking them and throwing them into the deep, right? And saying, this is how you swim, and this is what you're supposed to do, and this is what you'll do if you want to float. I'm a good student. Like I said, I do what I'm told. I've done that all of my life, and it's preservation. But my father, he just threw me out into the river and said, okay, you better learn how to swim because this is where we make all of our life. And from that day forward, the water has been part of my life, been part of what I do. I've harvested almost every food that I could out of the Salish Sea for food and for commerce. And it was the best part of my life as an adult. It was the only place in my life where I knew I belonged there. And for me, that part of knowing that I belong there is something that I've always kept with me, and I always act like I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be. I belong here. I belong here today. I'm supposed to be here. Our paths we're supposed to cross. You know, the navigation in life is a lot like the sea. There are many currents, there are many points, there are many things in life that it'll either slow you down or speed you up or put you on time or get you where you're going. And that's how we lived our life. We lived our life by the raising and the lowering of the tide, and that's how we moved. That's how we determined when we were going to leave and what time of the day that we were going to go. Most of us as fishermen have this built-in clock. And I don't wear a watch. I detest watches. I detest the tracking of time. It's not normal. And I was hooked on time for a long time. But the thing about time and about what happens with it is how we spend it, what we do, how we're productive, the places we're supposed to be. And that's, like I was saying, that's how we determine how we're going to get there. We have a lot of stories of from community to community within our intertribal communities of lives that were changed because the tide was coming in and it was time to go. My buddy's great-grandmother, I'm sorry, was supposed to marry a gentleman from Swinomish. And she didn't want to go. Nobody could make her go. Women were powerful in our time, in our lives. Women were coveted, women were respected, women were honored. And they were the ones that made sure everything was all right. Everything was in line. I'm proud to be part of a matriarchal society. I've never seen a society that ran any better than our societies when we were matriarchal. We ran the best, the ideas were the best, the care for the people were the best. And it comes from being a mother. It comes from being that nurturer, that caregiver, the one that gives life. And that's why we honor so much the life. You know, and life itself is something that will go on forever. And that's why I say I have ties to this land. The people that lived here, that died here, that became a part of the trees that you see here, that became a part of the bushes and the shrubs and everything else, the rocks that are here, they just came back part of the ground after they were put in the ground. And that's one of the things about time, you know, we're reclaimed. We're only here for a short time. I've always believed that I knew who my mother was before I got here. I chose my mother. I knew my mother was having problems. I knew my mother needed somebody like me. I had a rough life, and it's not that it was something that could have changed anything or anybody if it was different. But having that rough life and that childhood and the responsibility of an adult as a child does something to the psyche, it does something to the mindset. And you end up absorbing, and I'm glad I did, because I've always been able to nurture, I've always been able to help. I'm very empathic, and I believe I got that from my mother. I can feel things, I can hear things that are not seen or heard by the normal people. And these are things that we carry that will go with you when you leave. It's the only things you take. Your memory of the time. You know, once we're done, we're done. You know, this body, this shell has a time limit, and it's ticking. Tick, 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 tick. The thing is, you know, as a small child, I must have been 4 years old. A lot of elders around me. Lots of elders. And I looked at them, and I looked at the way they conducted themselves, and I looked at the way they cared for themselves and everybody around them. I said, I'm going to be an old man. I am going to be an old man when I leave. I'm done. You know, and when you say things like this in life, I believe in speaking into existence what happens. We spoke into existence this coffee shop. We had no idea. We had no idea what we were going to do when we walked into this coffee shop one day for breakfast. 6 months later, we're opening up and operating a coffee stand. And we weren't looking. We weren't looking. But I'm saying time and place and opportunity. And I've been wanting to come back home. This is my homeland. This is home. This is where I'm supposed to be. And there's more and more like me that are venturing out of the boundaries of the reservation and back into our homelands, back into our places where that we inhabited, back to where our ancestors are calling us back home to represent who we are. And it goes along with back to what I was talking about, me picking my mother. You know, by picking that lifestyle, I also pick a lifestyle and a duty of preservation and education and help for those that come behind me, for the people that come behind me. And it's a mindset that we're kind of, I don't want to say bred to do, but it's something that's innate in us, something that drives us to be who we are, to be communal, to be part of a phrase that it says it takes a tribe to raise a child. We are that tribe. We are those people. And we raise those children. We have always treated children like we treated our elders, with the utmost respect, because they're the ones that are going to take the load. They're the ones that are going to receive my load when I'm done. And you know, the thing about history and the thing about canoes and the waterways and what we've done and how we've lived and the lifestyle. Let me tell you a little story about this photo I brought. This one right here. This is me skippering our family canoe. You don't see much of anything behind me or beside me or around me. And it's because it's fog. And when I went on this trip this day, like I said, I've been on the water all of my life. I know how to read the water, I know how to act on the water, I know when the water's coming in, I know when the water's going out. And like I said, I have this clock inside me. And it's every 6 hours. Like this, it's every 6 hours. Something's happening, something's moving, something's changing. But on this day, I've been a part of the canoe journey since 1998. So I've been doing it for 26 years now, and it's been going on since 1990. And once again, we go back to the phrase, I do what I'm told. I was told I needed to go on this canoe journey to represent our tribe and bring the canoes home to Swinomish. I was part of a committee. We're called the Swinomish Cultural Environmental Protection Agency. And we were tasked, and it was an early attempt at preservation of culture, of a way of life, and and taking care of the environment at the same time, because we're all stewards. That's our job. But I was part of this committee, and they said you're going to go on this canoe journey, and they said you only have to be on there for a couple days, and then you can be done as long as you get them home to our homeland, and then you can be done. Well, that isn't how canoe journey works. When you go on canoe journey, you start in your homeland waters, or before your homeland waters, and you bring your visitors into your territory, and then you leave with them. You leave with your visitors on to the next destination. And for me to stop in the middle is unheard of. Stopping for anything halfway in the middle, I'm gonna stay there to the end, and I end up doing 350 miles that year, nautical miles, on the water to do this canoe journey. And I've been tied with it ever since. And we bought our canoe in 2009, made our first canoe journey in 2010, and we've been going ever since. The name of our canoe is the Salmon Dancer. We bought it from a canoe family from Chehalis. And when I left Swinomish this morning for this picture, it was just like this, bright, sunny, and then I go down Swinomish Channel and start heading out into Skagit Bay, and there it ends up showing this great big wall of fog, and it's just sitting there rolling like this in the one spot, and it doesn't move any farther than that spot, and it's like somebody built this wall where the fog just stopped right there on that one spot. This side was all sunny, that side was nothing but fog. And you couldn't see. You couldn't see to the end of the porch, either end. You couldn't see more than 10, 15 feet in front of you. And when we get to this wall, there's a half a dozen canoes just sitting there, wondering, do I go into this sea of fog? You know, it's my homeland, it's my water. It's coming out of my village. I hit right into it. And I wave at them, come on, let's go. And they all waited, they would not leave. Well, I travel along the land as far as I can, and knowing that I am going to not see land again for 5 miles, and I have to be on the water, and I can't go left, I can't go right, I've got to stay on this straight line, and there's nothing but fog around me. And you're tasked with keeping everybody here safe. You know, it's not just a 3-hour tour. But if you feel that wind, and imagine the tide, feel that wind coming this way, right? And you feel that, you know the tide's going straight in front of you, and you got the sun over here. Those are the only things that you have to navigate with. The movement of the water, the breeze coming out of the west, and the sun on your east side coming up over the west. And you head out into the fog, and that's all you see in this haze. And as long as you keep the feel of that air right here, keep the warmth right here, and know that that water is traveling that way. I'm going to make it to my point. 5 miles later, my brother pops out of the fog on his boat, our support boat, because he had to stay home, and takes his picture. 5 hours later, I travel all by myself. 5 hours later, no GPS, no radio, no nothing. And I got a crew that says, we trust you. We trust you. We're going to do this. With no fear. And how do you get that? You get that from being a part of the water. Like I said, I got salt water in my veins. I've had it there ever since I was a child. And in this process of learning how to deal with communal living, everyone has a responsibility. Everyone from the front to the back, including me, has responsibilities to be able to make it throughout the day. And without a sense of direction or a willingness to follow an order, you get chaos. Well, Canoe Journey, like I was saying, does something to you. You can either experience this 5-hour ride and not let it faze you, or even know that you did something phenomenal by doing this, or you just say, oh, it was another day. But more than likely, you're going to see, you're going to feel, you're going to be able to experience doing something like this that is phenomenal, and being a part of the bigger effort to do it. And without that cooperation, and without this built-in cooperation from everybody, these canoe journeys wouldn't happen. They wouldn't exist. Same thing when you see our warriors on our canoes out here in Penn Cove, racing for the prize pools. You know, that lifestyle. There are certain things I am so glad for the ignorance of the government. Because they allowed us to keep certain things that allowed us to cloak the bigger picture of who we are. One of the biggest life changes they tried to make us grasp were the black robes, the white collar. And it worked. And it works all over the world. It doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't matter where you're from, that tactic works. I'm not saying it's bad, because I have a God. I believe in a God. I believe in existence. I believe in a creator. I believe in people that instruct me how to be who I am that you can't see. I always tell people when I'm somewhere, I may look like I'm alone, but I am never alone. And I have helpers. I have people that have been with me since I was a child. And we have this ability to be able to do what we do with that help. With that, some people like to think of them as guardian angels, or a conscience even, but something that moves you for the greater good. We have that. We had all of this. But we were forced to be taken and given different labels. And this is where I tell you that I am so glad about the ignorance of the government. Because we were able to cloak what we actually believe behind this mask to be able to preserve what we have and we're able to bring forward today, to preserve what was yesterday. And the canoes are just one form, religion's another form, government's another form. And those are all subjects that are the ills of the government, but nothing of natural life that we experience amongst the greater community. I've never been a fan of the government, but I love the USA. I don't know if you can understand that, but the government has failed me and failed me and failed me 49 times. Not one of them has honored the treaty or the paper that it was written on, or the blood that was shed to get to that treaty. We laid down our arms. We laid down violence. We promised never to do violence again. If you think about what we had in today's financial terms, I'd be one of the richest men around. You know, like I said, this was my home. My home was right here. 100 feet wide, 1,000 feet long. The value of that, just that piece of property. Imagine what that value is today in today's value. We owned half a Whitby. Half a Canoe. The Skagit Delta. And we ended up with a 7 mile long by 5 mile wide piece of property. And it's been living in property ever since. But, like I said, we had everything else before everybody else got here. And all of that is still here. We've had traders, we've had businessmen, there were people like me before me. I've been a businessman all of my life. All of my life I've sold something somewhere to somebody. Whether it be for food, or work, or skills. I've sold something to somebody. But I came with those gifts. I have, oh my gosh, one of these days I'm going to write my resume. I have 40 different occupations that I use to gain employment. Not many people can say that they have 40 different occupations that they use to gain employment. I've worked 3 and 4 different jobs at a time all of my life. I've been an entrepreneur all of my life. I've sold my time, and I've sold it wisely. And I've sold it to educate myself, to take my education and help those coming behind me. And I have. And I've been in, you know, when we paper an educated man and you see them with all of the education after they've been through all of the schooling, you give them PhDs, you give them masters, you give them doctorates, you give them all these different, well, like I was saying, we had those too, but we never papered anybody. Everybody just knew what their responsibilities were. And when you had a problem, those were the people that you went to see. You seek out those that know what they're doing. And we had those people. We had people that were engineers enough, smart enough to be able to look at a tree and make a one-piece canoe out of that tree. 60 feet long. One of the fastest canoes on the water, right over there. And you know, we've had people like me throughout time since contact, willing to be a part of the whole, to come together to be able to fit in. I am going to bring to life and put back on the water canoes from Charlie Sneetlam's canoe down in the basement. I'm going to replicate those. And I'm going to, the series of those canoes are going to be called My Cousin. I have a coffee roast that's called My Cousin. And I also have one that's called My Last Cousin. And the two stories for those is in tribal language, you're not going to find any words for cousin, first cousin, second cousin, or family. That's it. You know, we know where we come from, we know what part of the family we come from, I know what part of my tree I'm from. And when we know what part of that tree we're from, and we know what part of boundaries that we cross with our family name and our family ties, that's how we kept peace in the Salish Sea. We intermarried. And that's what I was saying, there's many stories about brides that did not make it to their destination because they didn't catch a tide to leave. And somebody else went in their place. Her sister, I was talking to you about, her sister went in her place and became this guy's great-great-grandmother rather than the sister that was supposed to go. And so, you know, the ties that we have are all blood ties, all through the mother. Ties from the mother, ties from that lineage. You know, and that's why women were so revered. I recently changed my name from Cladusbid to Cladusbid. And the reasoning behind that there's a story. It's not an easy one to tell. But my great-great-grandfather married a white woman. And you think about time. It was 1880. I'm sorry to say the truth, but white men have never loved their women like we have. They have never honored them the way that we have. Their possessions, they're owned. My way. Don't touch my way. You know, But when you think about what happened, they write love stories about what happened to my grandfather and change it a little bit and put a twist on it. And you know, it does something to the truth. It skews it, it changes it, and it's like looking through rose-colored glasses to make it okay. Because it was justified what happened to my grandfather. It was legal, and it was done by a lawman. And you can't argue when you got judge, jury, and executioner ready to hang you. And my grandfather got hung. It was trumped up charges that were never proven, and nothing had ever happened to the lawman. Let go scot-free. Because at the time there were bounties. Now, you were allowed to kill Indians. We were expendable. And like I said, the U.S. government has never been my friend. He's wanted to wipe me out. The only good Indian is a dead Indian. Save the man, kill the Indian. The atrocities that we've had to live through and the traumas that we've had to live through have made us who we are. It turned us into alcoholics, drug addicts, abusers. But the thing about life is it all turns around eventually. It all changes. Things return back to normal. Today I'm allowed to marry a white woman and not be hung. I love my wife, but I don't see skin color. I don't see a Caucasian being in front of me. I see the person that I love, that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and come back when I'm gone and find her when eternity take her home. Because in life, like I said, I believe in God, I believe in the afterlife, I believe in everything that was thrust upon me, but I choose to call it different names. And our belief is that once you're done with this shell, once you become dust and are no longer breathing, your spirit goes back home. And there's a grand reunion. I'll tell you my first experience with death. I was about 6 years old. My great-grandfather on my mother's side spent a lot of time. We're intergenerational. We spend time from the time of birth until the time of death with our family. And my great-grandfather would come and visit and spend the night at our house, and one of my jobs as a child was to go get him and bring him home. And he couldn't walk right, and he needed somebody to lean on, and so my job was to let him use me as a cane when we walked across uneven ground. I get him up to our house. It's starting to get late. We had just got done with dinner. We were getting ready to lay down for bed, and it was dark. And the cemetery is about a quarter of a mile away from us. And it's at the end of our village. I start hearing these dogs bark at the end of the village, right by the cemetery. And as the dogs start barking, it's like one house at a time. Each dog from that house start barking, like somebody was in front of it as they were barking at them as they were going by. And then finally they got down to our house, and the whole village of dogs were barking and yapping. And my grandfather looked at me and said, "It's time for me to go home." Me at 6 years old says, "Grandpa, what do you want me to do? It's dark. You want me to bring you home?" He says, "No, it's time for me to go home. They're coming after me." That's why the dogs are barking. And he says, "Give me my pillow." My grandfather never used a bed, never used a mattress. And for a pillow, he used a blanket. And when he said, "Give me my pillow," he says, "Give me my blanket." So I give him his blanket, and he lays down on the floor. And in his house, his bed was the dirt floor. He lived in a shack that had 4 walls and a dirt floor. And he slept on the dirt. And that's where he was most comfortable. Anyway, he laid down to sleep on our floor. I got up the next morning, and even as a child, I still rise early, up before the dawn. I can always hear my father, get up, you're burning daylight." Until this day, I hear that ringing in my head. Get up, you're burning daylight. And that was my alarm clock. That was my automatic wake up. That was my automatic eyes open. It's time to do something. Well, I wake up early in the morning, and I go check on my grandfather, and he's gone. Passed. And he passed in our house on our floor. And that was my first experience with death. And that was my first experience with losing somebody very close to me. And as a native, that opens the floodgates for something that's going to happen for the rest of your life. I have dug grave, I have officiated, I have had my hand in laying to rest at least 200 of my family community members. And like I said, we all have jobs to do, and that's one of my jobs. One of my jobs is to help the family in their time of need and their grieving. Because you're not supposed to be alone at that time. You're not supposed to. You have a mouthpiece, and that's my job. My job was to be the mouthpiece for the family. But that from that day forward, we start to learn where we're at in the community and what our jobs are going to be. I started grave digging when I was 21 years old, and I dug grave for 30 years. And it's part of the process of community work. Like I said, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to lay one to rest. And you know, the thing about dealing with death is knowing that the great reunion happens every time I help a family. I see them suffer, but I don't get to see the joy that happens on the other side, and I won't get to experience that until I'm gone, and until I go home. So, you know, I don't know if this is what you guys wanted when you came.
Yes.
There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of. I don't prepare. I don't critique what I'm doing. And like I said, I have people that I travel with that give me what I need to share at the time I need to share. Whether it's talking to a grieving family or talking to a group of people that are interested in what I have to say. But I have to give honor to those that guide me. Without them, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be the same guy. Because if you don't listen to your inner self, you're actually going to get lost. You know, you're not gonna fulfill your destiny. And I plan on, you know, and I like to reference the Bible. I've been a Bible student all of my life. I've been many different denominations, many different religions. In my confusion and looking for my way and my direction in life. And I didn't ever want to discount the religion that was brought to me without studying it. Because if you don't study what is brought to you and try to learn what they're giving you and how they use it, you're not really learning anything. You're mimicking a value, and it does not do it justice. So I've immersed myself in every religion that I've ever walked through. I was a Catholic, I was a Mormon, I was a Seventh-day Adventist, I was a Pentecostal, you name it. It's like my occupations. And I'm an ordained minister too.
What minister? Ordained.
And I've been a preacher. I've stood on the pulpit and I've done my duties on the pulpit and espoused the glories of God. And don't get me wrong, I was not faking it. I was literally living that life. That was my life. That was everything that I was, who I was, what I was supposed to be at the time. And that immersion has brought me to where I am today, to allow me to say that I am not part of an organized religion. I am not part of an organized belief. I do have beliefs of my own that I do not choose to put a name to. And because I don't really believe there was a name given to any religion that we practiced as a people prior to actual religion hitting the shores. But we had beliefs. We had beliefs in the life and the process of life. And all of those, with life, I love what I do. I love the life that I've led. The struggle in my early childhood, the development of my talents, and all to be able to get me where I am today. It's without the salt water in my vein, I would not be the guy that I am today. Because that life on the water prepared me for life in Seattle. in Burlington, Mount Vernon. That life on the water tempered my mind enough to be able to accept what's out there. That I can't change everything. I can only change my little world. And I can only change my direction, how I think, where I'm going. But I can share. I can share what I have, and that's the talent that I talk about too. If you don't share your talent, it dries up, it goes away. And it doesn't matter what the talent is. Any education process that you receive, if you don't continue to use that education, you lose 90% of it. You can retain 10% of it, and you still have a lot of knowledge, but that 90% is gone. And it'll take a lot of work to get it back. You know, when you have 40 different occupations to gain employment, I would be hard pressed to tell you what all 40 are. But I know I can do them, you know, and that's the thing. And that's what I was given before I got here. That's what I firmly believe. I firmly believe everything that I know. And I've always said this all of my life. I've got all kinds of useless knowledge up here stored up for when I need it. And that's the part of me that has always been driven by an education. I don't have a papered education. All of mine has came by hard knocks and living. And I truly believe I've got the better deal. Because I'm happy where I'm at. And as long as you're happy where you're at, then that's all that matters. I don't even know what time it is. How much time do I have left?
4 minutes.
4 minutes, look at that. Without a watch. Without a watch. Talk about that internal clock. You know, when I came to Coopville for the EB's conference, I came right down here to the wharf, right to the wharf. Probably parked illegally. And walked out there and prayed. Because for me it's a ritual for prayer is to be able to ask permission. I had to ask permission to be here. I had to ask permission for those that came before me for the right to come home. And I truly believe that is what's driving my success right now, is the strength and the ability that they give me to survive. And you don't see them. I don't see them. I feel them. I don't travel alone. I love who and what they are and how they help me. Because a lot of the times people think quick reaction is sheer luck. No, I'm supposed to be here. I was saved many times. I have not led the safest life. I have not had the safest jobs. Like I said, I grew up on the water as a fisherman. I was a logger, and those are the one and two jobs in Washington State that you can die from. So, you know, it's like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. But like I said, I've been protected all my life. I've been guided, I've been protected, I've been helped, I've been prodded, I've been poked, I've been pushed. But like I said, I always go where I'm supposed to go. If I'm told I'm supposed to be here, well, I'll be here. And with that, if you have any questions for what I've talked about, yes.
What I want to know is,
Where's that 5 miles that you head in to get back to home?
Oh, that
Make
was
sure whatever.
5 miles of the 300 miles that I did that year to get to. This year was the year that we were going to Nisqually. So from here, from this point, I was going to Tulalip. And from Tulalip I went to Jamestown. From Jamestown I went to Suquamish. And just on down the line for
So where's the
reservation.
point of origin
Of which one?
for this year, for example?
There is no point of origin, there's a destination.
Uh,
The destination is Puyallup.
okay.
Every
This
year the destination changes.
Uh-huh.
Where you come from is your homeland. So I'm coming from home, and I'm going to their home.
So what do you consider your home?
Swinomish.
Which is
Lacona.
Lacona, that's what I thought. So you gotta go around this thing.
Well, that's another thing that I want to do, and this is something that
I'm glad I was
when
your
I got
guinea pig.
here to Coopville, I want to be able to bring the canoe journey back to Coopville.
Oh,
Last time we were in Coopville was 2010,
okay. Right. I was here then.
Yeah.
and but the thing about bringing it back to Coopville, there's protocols. There's things that you have to abide by to be able to do it right.
With
And it's a
government or
group
private
effort.
stuff?
It'll be a group effort
Uh,
to have it happen here in this community. It'll be a community effort. Because I won't be able to pull it off by myself, and it takes, just to get to the final destination's final budget for their celebration, it's probably about $4 million, $3 to $4 million, just to host at the end. When we did ours at Swinomish, it cost us $3 million.
When was that?
What year was that?
2011.
Ah.
I went to the one in your homeland.
2011.
Swinomish. I
Yeah.
went to that one twice.
Yeah, we couldn't have done that one without all the volunteer help. We had a lot of volunteer help come from Whidbey Island.
That was me.
Yeah, we had a lot of them. We had, for you to be able to host 100 canoes, feed them, house them, shower them, all the logistics that go into that. It's like a city. You're taking care of a floating city coming into your homeland.
So when is the one this summer, this year?
We will be traveling in July, and final destination will be the 1st of August.
Is there any parallel with a potlatch, what you're talking about?
It is close, but it's not. A potlatch is where a personal being gives everything they own away.
Right.
This is a community event where everybody comes to celebrate. It's not a giveaway. It's not.
Ah, okay.
It's a celebration. It's more of a gathering of knowledge and songs and dances.
There's still a lot of giving away though.
Well,
I mean, people bring
that's the protocols
part
that I
of the
talk
protocols,
about.
yeah.
The
$4
protocols
million
that
worth.
Well, no, I also mean like all the people that travel bring.
Uh,
you. Right.
They prepare gifts for.
Yes, and that's another thing too. When you host an event like that here, the city of Coopville would be on the cuff for producing these protocol gifts. And it may sound like a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to host one spot.
On the route.
I don't ever see Coopville becoming a host for the final destination and wanting to spend $4 million, but that
Oh, I
would be
thought that's
nice.
what we were planning.
Stop on that.
Okay, all right.
But if if I could get the canoe journeys back here, I'd be very happy. I'd be very happy for them to come back home and to be able to start honoring this land here.
Were you here in 2010?
Oh yeah,
What-
yeah.
Was it an overnight?
No, what we did was we came in and we ate dinner and we traveled by car back home to Canoe.
Okay.
And then the next day we came back and then left.
So okay. And was it just
One night.
was it just the Swinomish canoe? Or
No. There was a bunch of us.
I mean, it was a stop. Whoever had come from further away and
right.
joined you. Yep.
I remember the family canoes that came in that.
Because we were going
that
to
time.
Lummi, I believe, that year, 2010 when we were here.
I was at one.
Thank
I
you.
remember the canoe.
Thank
Appreciate it
you.
very much.
Yeah, my story with,
Yes,
I wanted to know where you are in that picture.
I'm the skipper.
Okay, that's the skipper.
Yeah, I'm the one that tells you where to be and when to be and how to be, if you want to be on our canoe.
Can you say anything about what is on the hanging from the front?
That's a cedar. It's a cedar bough, and it's used for protection.
So there's always during the journey. There's always.
This was a gift
Oh.
from a that one came from Lummi, and they put them on, and you leave them there until they either fall off or if you made your destination and it stays together in one piece, and you leave it there. And it's cedar for us. I love our canoe, and it's served its purpose. But we have taken a lot of flack for being on a fiberglass canoe.
oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the only ones.
We were one of the first ones. When you're one of the first ones,
Yeah.
and this was in '98 when we took one of the first ones. But as Native Americans, we always turn everything into humor. And if we can't laugh at ourselves while somebody's trying to poke fun at us or trying to make, we can't make them laugh about how stupid they are. We told them we were on old growth fiberglass. But we truly do believe this vessel, even though it's just made of fiberglass, has a spirit,
Yeah.
has a heart, has a heartbeat. Everything that we touch has some heartbeat from something else.
So I'm going up to Lacana as part of this workshop. I mean, it's either tomorrow or the next day, I'm not sure. I've never been there. What would you recommend? Because I'm going to be able to wander around and photograph whatever I want. What would you say I should photograph that would best represent
LeConner?
your family? Something that would be different than these other people come from all over.
Right.
But they
Because
wouldn't have
normally when people go into LeConner, they want pictures of the bridge and they want pictures of the town.
No, I want
And if
something-
you were looking for something that represented us, you could probably look in the heart of the community. The heartbeat is the very center. It always is. One thing that represents us the most is probably our totem.
And where would I find it?
It's on Snoosh and Pioneer Parkway.
I will fund it.
Yeah. And it's the
Appreciate it.
only one on the reservation that's standing in the middle of the reservation.
And nobody will mind if I come and take a photograph.
Oh, no, no, no. That is one of the only totems that has a white man on it.
Oh, really?
What's the story?
U.S. President Roosevelt. Build
Which-
back better.
Which Roosevelt?
Yeah, which one?
Theodore.
Probably he was one that did the build back, right? Yeah, he put all the money into the economy and the roads and
Okay, yes. yes.
the highways
Yeah,
and
Theodore was
he was the one that put all the money in infrastructure.
Yes.
And he was one that really instrumental in the foundation of the tribes. That's a lot of where they get their governmental start
Yeah.
from that organization.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Go well,
Yeah.
thanks. I'll find that photo.